The opinions expressed on this program are solely those of its hosts, guests, or callers, and do not necessarily represent the opinions of WTBR-FM, its management, other producers, or sponsors.
Hi, everyone. You're listening to Backstory. Let's hear it on WTBR-FM Pittsfield with Roberta McCulloch-Dews of the Mayor's Office in the city of Pittsfield. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we have with us Elizabeth Heller, a recent transplant to Pittsfield who has wasted no time making strides. She's the author of several books, including the most recent Kids Super Journal, for which she garnered the top prize from E4All. So Elizabeth has lots to share, and we're excited to hear all about it. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. What a great introduction.
Well, you are a busy lady. You're doing a lot of things, and so we have a lot to talk about. But I want to set the stage, and what I normally do, especially with our guests, I want to find out a little bit about you. So you previously lived in Boston and Brookline for 35 years.
Yep.
And in November of last year, you moved to Pittsfield after experiencing a professional transition due to the pandemic. So tell me a little bit about what attracted you to Pittsfield.
That's such a great question. It's actually the question I get most is, why Pittsfield? And I'll just start by saying I think Pittsfield is heaven on earth.
Oh, nice.
Honestly, I say that to people and they kind of look at me, but it is the most beautiful place with the most beautiful people. So it's kind of a long story, but the short version is, yes, I lost my work by the end of 2020.
Yeah.
And I needed to make a transition, and I came up with this idea, and I started to realize, given everything that was so unpredictable at the time, it wasn't going to be very affordable for me to stay where I was.
Right.
I was feeling like I need a change. I'd been there for a long time. And so I have I'm a yoga teacher trained, and my teacher from teacher training, Andrew Tanner, had moved back to Lenox, and he was having a retreat, and I hadn't seen him in years. So I went on the retreat, and I was talking to him about I want to make a change, and he said, come to Pittsfield.
Nice.
I said, okay. So the next weekend I came out and I literally fell in love with it.
Okay. I got to ask you, what struck your interest? What was it? I mean, was it the trees? Was it the environment? What was that certain something?
Boy, that's a great question, because sometimes a lot of it is a bit intangible. I have a really strong intuition, so that was part of it. But it was beautiful. The center of Pittsfield, North Street, was so... It felt so historic and beautiful and so full of potential, which I love potential. Yeah. And the housing was reasonable. I am in my first house of my life. I lived in an apartment renting for 35 years. This is my first house of my adult life.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Pittsfield. And every person I met along the way, including Deb Gallant from E4All, I called her before I even moved because I'd missed the deadline to apply for the fall, and she said no, apply for the spring. But she said, I want to have coffee. I want to help you. I was like, wow, this place is amazing. So every person I met was just wanting to help, and I just kept feeling drawn, and everything kept working out. And here I am, and I'll just say this too: the sky here is gorgeous. The colors of the clouds, the colors of the sky, how close the stars are. Yeah. It just blows me away. Living in the city, you don't see the sky the same way.
Is it because the skyline obscures all of that?
It's the lights. The lights of the city block out the stars. Yeah. And so I remember telling my neighbor, and she actually bought me a T-shirt. I kept saying, you can see the stars here. You can see the stars. She got me a T-shirt that says, you can see the stars here.
Sweet.
Berkshire's. I think it's magic here.
It is magic, and I'm a transplant as well. 12 years in.
Nice.
And it has been, and I think that's one of the best things we love about this area is that the kindness of the folks as well. And I think that if you want to get the city feel, you're not far away from the city. And if you want to sort of bask in the luxury of just being in a rural environment, being close to nature. I just went with a girlfriend to a hike recently. And I mean, I went after work. So the proximity between your professional and just recreation, it's not a huge gap at all.
I hike every day.
Oh,
I'm in love
really?
with the trees. Yeah, I love being outside.
Well, I was just going to ask.
And you know what? When you say the city,
Yeah.
you're thinking New York.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Boston.
Yeah. So true, because of course, for me, my point of reference will always be New York City as an NYC person at heart. So, yes.
But they're both close. It's
They
amazing.
are. Yeah,
it's amazing.
mean, but it's interesting though. I got to tell you, because when I go out to Boston, I feel like a fish out of water. I don't know the layout. Like, I don't feel comfortable because I don't really know the city. I don't know
I'll
the
take
ins
you.
and outs. All right, well, we got to do it one day.
I'm going to go thrifting.
Okay, we'll go through it. So I was going to ask you, like, some of your favorite places. I mean, you already mentioned that you love to hike. So where are some of your favorite places to hike?
I have to say Kennedy Park.
Oh, that's a nice one.
I know it's very populated
Yeah.
and there's a million beautiful hikes here,
Yeah.
but I often go alone or I meet friends who we go early in the morning, so I feel really safe there.
Yes.
Given that I'm a city girl really at heart, the first time I went hiking by myself, I'm like, what am I doing here? But hiking alone. But
I
it's
still
completely
say
safe.
that.
Yeah, it's just a city thing. But it's just beautiful and there's
Yeah.
lots of ways to make it fun. So that's
Yeah.
one of my go-tos, especially it's close to where I
Yes.
live and I can get there. But, I've been up Greylock, I've been October Mountain
Yes.
is beautiful.
Yes.
I have to say I've been extremely busy, so I haven't gotten to as many places as I'd
Yes.
like, but I am slowly.
So Pittsfield State Bars.
I did that too.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Oh,
And Olivia's
gorgeous.
Overlook. is
Yes,
nice.
I did that too.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Roberta. Yes.
Beautiful places. And I want to say by Bosque, I think it's called Mohana's Cobble. I might be butchering the name, but it's right by Bosque. And it's not for the faint of heart. That incline, if you're not careful, will take you out.
Okay.
Before you get to the top.
We tried to find that. I
Yeah.
tried to find that over last summer.
Yeah.
And we ended up just going up the ski run. And it was like exhausted. And I got up to the top. I'm like, I got to get out of here.
It's
Yeah,
intense.
it's
I
intense.
just did that. And
beautiful.
I as I'm going up the incline, I'm wondering, will I live to tell the tale? But I did live. I did survive.
We are a couple of city girls, no question.
Oh my God. And of course, I'm looking around like, because the city's always in you.
Have you seen a bear?
Oh my, I have seen a
I
bear.
have too.
I've seen a bear, and I literally, and don't let a piece of like branch crackle or something like that. I'm just like looking around like, what is happening? But I think
get it.
there's always that city vibe, and you're like, why would you go into the woods by yourself?
Exactly.
You don't do that. All right. So, so the Berkshires are so beautiful. And
Can I mention one more thing?
Yeah,
I've been to Tanglewood
Yes.
6 times this summer.
Really?
I have seen James Taylor,
Nice.
4th of July. I've seen Earth, Wind, and Fire. I know. I just went last weekend and for John Williams' 90th birthday.
Isn't it the best?
Yes.
It's the
People are
best.
like, what? You're going nuts. I'm like, I just go all the time. It's incredible.
No, so do you go all out with your wagon and you set up your little table and candle and
well,
things
no
like
candles
that?
so far,
Okay.
but yes. But
All
the
right.
picnic and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah. And I've brought friends and
Isn't
it's
it
been
nice?
Oh, I can't even. I don't know what to say.
It's
this
one of
place
those
is amazing.
things that, like, if you live here, like, you absolutely should go to Tanglewood. And I remember I had an aunt who would mention Tanglewood, and I was still in the city. I was like, what is this Tanglewood? I don't even know what she's talking about. But once you're here, you realize it's a staple. It's a summer staple that you just have to make it out there. Unfortunately, I have not, because of my schedule this past summer, I have not been able to make it out to Tanglewood, unfortunately. And you actually had the privilege of attending John Williams' 90th celebration. How awesome was that?
It was, I still can't describe it. Like, I'll start to get tears in my eyes. It was, James Taylor came out and sang Sweet Baby James while Yo-Yo Ma played. I mean, it was like, it was hard to be just like, is this reality?
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. And Itzhak Perlman was there as a surprise and he played. I mean, it was just... It was just like it was amazing to me.
Yeah.
I was blown away. The whole summer has been like that for me. And I have to just say, I wake up in the morning and that's how I feel. I feel like I'm living literally heaven on earth and it's going to be a magic day because there's something in the energy and the people and this beautiful nature that we're in. it's a very unique part of this country, and I've seen a lot of this country.
It is. It's
very special.
It is special. Prior to moving up here, I mean, even though we're New York City people, we moved away for our jobs, and I was in upstate New York, and so it's very different from New York,
very
NYC. And I knew that when we moved out here, I mean, I had did my research about Pittsfield, but being out here, I thought to myself, this place is charming. That's
the word. It's charming.
It's charming.
And there's all this opportunity here.
Yeah.
And there are people who want to help you.
Absolutely.
We can get into that, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a big thing about the Berkshires that you will find, that you have found, and you'll continue to find, is that collaboration. You don't get that same connectivity in the city.
No.
Because there's so many folks that everyone has sort of their own group, right? But here in Pittsfield and in the Berkshires, you have access to such a wide network of folks. You just have to make yourself willing to be a part of it.
I can't even tell you the number people who I've met here. Like, how do you know so many people? I'm like, because they want to be known. Like, all you have to do is open your mouth and say, can you tell me someone who? And suddenly you know this. And I'll just say this too. Yeah. Everybody knows everybody here, which is doesn't that blow you away?
It blows me away, which makes me feel like I'm glad I am not from here, because I don't have to feel like I am talking to someone that could be like a distant relative or something. Like, I know that I have no relatives here because I'm not from here. But I wonder too, I'm like, well, that closeness.
Yeah, but it's being from the city, as you know, it is not. It's not my experience.
No, it's not.
And I'm someone who loves to make connection with people, so I do it wherever I am. But when I got here, it's almost like there's you can tap into this web of good energy, because people really at heart want to help other people. And if you just are open and willing, it happens. That's why I'm sitting here. I mean, it's a whole series of connections, and here I am.
That's right. And that is definitely something that is a hallmark aspect of the Berkshires, that element of connectivity, and basically, and it starts with that willingness to be a part of it. And I think, Elizabeth, you have demonstrated that. I mean, you're a year in. Not even 9 months. Well, exactly. Months, I mean, with November knocking around the corner, right? You're soon going to make that anniversary, and look at you already. You have sort of created all these inroads. And I think a lot of it goes back to the specialness of our city, the specialness of Berkshire County, and how we treat one another and how we make people feel welcome. I will say, though, that you do realize the folks who are truly from here, because you could be here like 50 years and you'll still be new to the Berkshires, because
that's okay. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I don't know if you're going to get into this, but I'm from California. Yeah. When I was 9, we started moving around, and we moved every couple of years. Yeah. And at heart, I think I am that California girl. Yeah. And I love people. I'm a little bit laid back. Yeah. I'm energetic. But I love meeting people because of that history, because I've lived in Illinois, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, and all those places. And I went to 2 high schools. And
let me ask you, was that a part of just like the trajectory moving around at that time? Yeah,
my dad was, he worked for AT&T, and he was transferred. It was the time when people were promoted and transferred. And so he did well in his job. And so we were constantly moving. And as you can imagine, that's a tough thing, especially the older you get. And especially for me, because I loved school, I loved my friends, and it was a process of continually having to leave and start over, and then get in and then leave and start over. And so as hard as it was, I saw spectacular parts of the country, was able to live there. And I'm a people person, but I really got a lot of practice meeting people. Yeah. And being here, I think at this point in my life, I really see the connectivity of how all of that has led to this moment where I'm living in a new place. Yeah. I'm not 20, right? So it's later in my life, and I am starting over. And this beautiful place and these people have made it. I've shown up, but they've reached out to me because I've shown up.
Right.
And
Right.
it's beautiful. And I think it's a lesson for kids. It's a lesson for everyone that if you just make yourself present and find a way to be somewhat vulnerable, because you do have to. I'm very comfortable being vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's not always easy.
Which
but,
I must say, because coming from the city, I know that you develop a shell. When you're in the city, I mean, and again, my city is New York, your city is Boston, that shell where you put on, because it's almost like an armor that you wear.
A lot of people do.
And so how did you find that balance between being a people person and disarming yourself from that armor?
Well, I kind of walk around disarmed. So what the most common comment I received over the 35 years I was in Boston was eventually someone would say in a conversation, "You're not from here, are you?" Because I think because of my history, because of who I am, and then, how I moved around and so I love people. They fascinate me, and I'm always talking to people. It's not common in Boston that people do that.
Right.
And so, because I think I was very genuine, eventually people they'd let that armor down you're talking about, and they would enjoy the conversation. I've had some of the best conversations and connections of my life were in 3 minutes in the grocery store.
Well, I can totally sense it, Elizabeth, because I'm a talker as well. And I'm like, she's a kindred spirit.
Yes. Oh my God. This may be a 6-hour podcast. Everyone get some snacks.
You are, as you're talking, I'm like, wow, she's a talker just like me. I have to ask, in school, were you that chatty kid?
I don't know that you would find me. I'm not sure. I wasn't like the kid who couldn't stop talking, although it may seem that way now.
Yeah.
I was the kid who came in and just, as terrified as I was to meet everyone, I just threw myself in.
Yeah.
And I love people, and I think I've genuinely always loved connecting to kids and kids and adults. I mean, as a kid, as 2 kids, but I think I just was myself, and I really wanted to belong.
Yeah.
And so I just became that person. Now, I wasn't like getting in trouble for talking in class.
Yeah.
But I was a cheerleader. I was, I've always been athletic, and I always participated in things. I ran for student government. I was a writer, and, I just participated in every possible way, and I just got used to that practice. So,
I'm glad.
Did you get in trouble in school?
Well, I was that kid who, with my report cards, it's like, Roberta, she's great potential, but she's talking when she's not supposed to be. So I do think it's fitting.
But look at you now.
That I went into a career in journalism because I used my mouth for a good purpose.
There you go.
So, it worked out. So I always think there are sort of like these nods to where you'll end up. I think that along the way, it shows itself, in different ways.
Well, yeah. I used words a lot, and maybe I didn't use them the way you did, and when I wasn't supposed to, because I like to be a good girl. Yeah. And I like.
I was good too, Elizabeth.
I know you were. I can tell you were. I absolutely can tell that. No question. But I did journal starting from 8 years old.
Yes, let's talk about that.
So, what I found to help me. So I was journaling about ballet because all I wanted to do was be a ballerina. And I took class, and I had some big feelings about it that were not as positive as I thought they were going to be. And for some reason, I picked up a pen and I wrote down, 3 or 4 sentences about how I was feeling. And I just remember the profound feeling of like having a place to like put those feelings that came outside of me. So I didn't have to hold them. And it felt so good. And just a one sentence thing is I did grow up in a challenging environment. Outside of my family, I was abused, and there was alcoholism in my family, and it, with the moving and all. So there was a lot going on for me as a kid. And I just, from that moment, never stopped journaling. So a lot of maybe the chatty part was me sitting with myself and writing whatever was there. And this is the Kid Super Journal, but, now science has told me, I've been doing it for decades.
Now, when you started, I know you said that you picked it up, but did you see this behavior modeled by someone? Did you see it? Did someone say, here, Elizabeth, here's a journal? Did you pick up a notebook? It was totally happenstance.
No, it wasn't, at that time in, my life, journaling wasn't a thing.
It wasn't.
And I don't know why I did it. And it sometimes gives me chills a little bit because, as you just said, sometimes you you look back and you can see the little seeds that were there for where you're going to be going.
Yeah.
And I think that moment was meant to happen. I cannot tell you why I did it. I just did it. And I never stopped.
Well, I have a question in terms of just as you deposited all your feelings and thoughts into these journals. One, did you keep them? And did you look back at them and ever think to yourself, wow, look how far I've come?
So this is a great question. I get this question sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know how many journals I had. And I'd been carrying them around with me for decades.
Wow.
I never went back and read them. There were a few I knew when I was pregnant with my son. That journal I've kept and have gone back to on occasion. Because journaling isn't really about anything more than in that moment, finding yourself present, taking a pen, paper, crayons, and just writing down what's there.
Right.
So it's not about pretty sentences and punctuation and spelling and you're writing beautiful poetry or a story. Maybe you are.
Yeah.
So for me, it was never something I wanted to look back at. It was a place where I just got to be in the moment, and then it helped me to just keep going. So eventually, boy, this is the first time I'm saying this out loud.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Look at you. You're a good journalist opening me up. 2 moves ago, I let all of those journals go.
Did you?
I really did. I thought it was a process for me about not holding on to something I didn't need to hold on to anymore. It felt more like that history lives in me. It doesn't need to live in these journals. So I've kept, I've kept the ones that, when I was in Italy for my junior of college, I kept that one. I kept the one I kept those, but I don't need them. I never looked at them. And, when I looked back, I feel like all of that lives in me. It's not like I need to remember any of it. So
I would think that's profound. And I'm sure that you probably had a deeply personal way to just, cut ties.
Yes. I had a ritual around it.
I'm sure, because it's almost like you said, you had been carrying these journals around with you for years. In some way, they become attached to you. And there's something really poignant about releasing the load.
Yes.
Right?
And I think that can happen in big and small ways all through life. Yeah. Taking, when people declutter and they feel so good, right? Because a lot of times we aren't aware. I mean, it all goes back to mindfulness, being aware of what, just being aware. You don't have to act on anything. Right. But if you're making choices out of awareness, then they have a different place in your life. And then if you're just doing things without thinking and suddenly you've got 500, sweaters that you wear 2 a year, that kind of thing.
All about intention.
Yeah. And then there's things that are more important, like people holding on to old letters or old whatever, to just look at it and say, why do I have this?
Yeah, I think it's always peeling back the onion, the why. I have old letters that I've kept, and it's a throwback to a time before we had internet. Dare I say?
It's okay. I'm with you.
I don't care. I'll put myself out there. I'm in my 40s, so for me,
hey, I'm in my 50s.
All right, nice. Okay, all right.
And neither of us look like it, right?
No, she does not look like it.
Yeah, nor does Roberta at all.
So I remember when my best friend, he had gone on to college, and so the way for us to stay in contact, we wrote letters. Because if you didn't do that, you have to get like a calling card, or else your long distance charges would be out of this world.
My God, do you remember that? Yes. Everyone. There used to be a time when you had to pay for long distance.
Oh, see, they don't know.
It's cheaper after 9 p.m.
Yeah, they don't know, and you have to buy a calling card, right? Okay, all right. That's what people did back then. So we wrote letters, and it was a great way to actually keep up and talk about what's going on. So I look back at these letters that I wrote back in the 90s, and it's like a snapshot in time. So I definitely understand the the power of keeping certain things, but also letting things go. I think this is a perfect segue to talk about the Kids Super Journal, because I have it here in front of me and I am looking at this journal and it's quite comprehensive, everyone. It's great. And one, it has great illustrations, but I think there's such a deeper purpose behind this. And, the Kids Super Journal actually garnered the top prize for E4All. And so I want Elizabeth to talk a little bit about this project, how it came about, and your connection with E4All and how you rose to the top.
Wow, that's a small question. Okay.
I know, just a tad.
Well, I guess I can start with how I was at the time for about 7 years. I became a yoga teacher. I've been in PR. I have a master's in broadcast journalism. I'm an English major. I've written books. One was a kid's book that was a best-selling book. And at the time, I was teaching kids yoga and specializing in that. And I absolutely loved it. And journaling, mindfulness, all of that was included in my class. And then the pandemic happened, and over that year, things just, by the time we got to the end of the year, kids weren't signing up on Zoom. They were Zoomed out, you know, and there was no more teaching the kids. And at the same time, I felt profoundly, I don't know what the word is. I felt so drawn to giving them these tools when they needed it the most. Suddenly, when they need these tools the most, I can't reach them. So it was kind of a few months of, thinking. And all of a sudden one morning I woke up at 4 a.m. with the idea for the Kids Super Journal. And the first thing I decided to do was a podcast, because I wanted the kids to access it for free and quickly. Quickly was, it took me a little longer than quickly to get that together, but I did the podcast. And then I started drafting the journal. Then I was moving to Pittsfield. And as I was, preparing, I was looking, at all the amazing help there is here for free, everybody, for new businesses, small businesses. It's unbelievable. So I was going through the Pittsfield town website and I saw somehow a thing about E4All, and I clicked on it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. And I guess I should back up at some point. So I did. When I had this idea, I did research. I did a 25-page proposal, and I was going to send it to my publisher. And as I hit send, I did end up sending it. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm just doing this myself. I want to do this myself. I don't want to have anyone anymore controlling my life. I don't, the pandemic already sort of took things, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to take control of what I can take control of here.
So you had that confidence that you could move this project forward.
Confidence or stupidity?
No.
It's always a question during the day. Is confident or stupid? No, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm doing this. If someone else can do it, I can do it.
Right.
So that's kind of backing up. So I thought along the way, I found I don't know if you've heard of SCORE, or Senior Corps of Retired Executives. I got in touch with them, got a mentor from there, started, got the LLC going, was doing all the things. And then I found the E4All on the website as I was getting ready to move, and contacted Deborah, as I said, and she was so great. And once I got here, I'd finished the draft of the book, literally surrounded by packed boxes. I was still working on the book as I'm packing and moving. I moved. As soon as I got here, I started applying for E4All for the spring. I got in, and I don't know. I don't know how to say enough about E4All Berkshire County. It was the connections I made there, the support, the help, the knowledge. It's like a mini business school for free.
Yes.
For free. And everyone, just this group of people who just are showing up. I have 3 mentors who show up still for a year. They're stuck with me. Now it's every month. It was every week for 12 weeks. Yeah. They're amazing. They are absolutely amazing human beings, and have gotten me, supported me to this point, and they're still supporting me. And
Elizabeth, I think one of the most fascinating things is that I think your ability, you came in and you pretty much put together an agenda of what you're going to do and how you're going to connect with the people that you need to. And I think that intrepid spirit is part of the entrepreneurial pathway.
Yeah, I didn't know I was an entrepreneur, but I guess I should have known. I like to do things my own way.
Yeah.
I like to do things different. I like to pave new paths. I'm not one who likes to follow the crowd or take the worn road. So I should have maybe known that. But yeah, I am definitely that person, and I think given that I jumped into this, as the journey continues, I realize more and more that these qualities have always lived in me, and now I'm finding kindred spirits. I'm people like you, and the book. So, I guess circling back, besides the business side of it, I'm Suzanne Salonetti at Studley Press in Dalton is printing the book. I mean, it's all, I want to keep local as much as I can.
Yeah.
And, it's been in the Eagle. I did all my work. There was so much work, and we had to give final presentations. And I won the top prize. The Kid Super Journal won the top prize. So that was half the printing, the money for half the printing. I did Kickstarter.
Yes, you did.
Which was quite an experience. That's a big endeavor. And I think I was 128% of my goal.
I was going to say, what was it about it? Was it that was it a challenging thing or?
Kickstarter?
Yeah.
It's very detailed. You have to create, it's a very detailed way of reaching an audience. And you first of all have to create a lot of stuff for just the page, the Kickstarter page. There's the video, there's information, pictures of the book, you have to let backers know what you're planning to do, what you're doing with the money. Right. And then it's the outreach, because you need to reach out to your network. Right. And, again, it was, I just feel so lucky.
Did you have to share the link with them? Or?
Yes. Okay. So there's all kinds of, it's a really great platform. There's a lot of crowdfunding platforms. Yeah. Kickstarter is for businesses that have products. So it was the right fit for me. Okay. And then I literally, once I launched it, I let people know, let my network know about it. And then I literally one day, I sat down and went through my contacts in my phone. And I encourage everyone to go through the contacts in your phone, because I bet there's about 25% at least you don't know who these people are anymore.
That's how I feel about my Facebook page.
Yeah, something like that, right? So I went through and I literally sent the link to every person in my contacts, and I will tell you, old boyfriends contributed, people from my childhood, people from I'm a second degree black belt in Taekwondo, people from Taekwondo back in the day did it, all kinds of people, and it was like.
Now I got to ask you, Elizabeth, did they say, because obviously you reached way back into the vault to tap into those connections. I'm still in touch
with some of those people,
well,
but yeah.
I think that says a lot about you.
Oh,
because here's the deal, there are people that might still be in the address book, but that doesn't mean that the relationship is there.
Yeah, that's what I just felt so loved. I felt so, even like there were 5 old boyfriends that contributed. I know. And I was so touched by that because, it didn't work out, right?
Obviously didn't work out, but it meant that you were, you're still
they were nice
A-okay in their eyes.
Yeah. And, it was, and the new people and like brand new people, it was an amazing experience in that sense to be so supported by so many people. Yeah. And it is a lot of work, though. I'm in the process of sending the books out to all those people. But, the whole purpose of this and what I let all the people know on Kickstarter and in E4All is that given my experience, my life experience, and what has worked for me, I've had a lot of trauma. And, so I've lived these tools and science now has proven that they work. Right. So the combination of that, I think, makes this special because it's not just I did research and said this is a great book, which is all valid, but I've lived this, and it's so therefore, I know those kids out there. I mean, the pandemic isn't really over as much as we'd like to think, and I believe that everyone's kind of weary, whether we want to acknowledge that. Right. We've all been through a lot. We all have resiliency. We're all here. Right. However, that doesn't mean we're healed and that we've kind of gone to that next step. It's something that's called post-traumatic growth. And post-traumatic growth means just coming out of trauma, and because of the actual experience of the trauma, creating positive outcomes. And that is what mindfulness, which is the breathing, the moving, and the journaling that are in the Kids Super Journal. Super simple tools, super fun. And by the way, every adult who's seen this is like, don't tell anyone, I'm doing this book myself.
I mean,
it's really accessible because it looks fun. And I think a lot of times adults, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to get things perfect. And you look at the book and it's very inviting and it seems very doable. Yeah. So, and it is. It's very simple, but it's a lot of fun. And there's 70 days of journaling in there. There's 7 chapters, and each chapter has a theme, like, love being your superpower, your voice matters, things like that, finding your strength. And then the 10 days of journaling that follow are on that theme. So there's a choice from the breathing and the moving, there's journal prompts, and then there's positive activities. And, the hope really here is that kids don't have to do what I did, which is get lucky. I don't know why I picked up that pen. I don't know. It's such a great question. And literally, I don't know.
Now, I have to tell you, I mean, I remember when I was in 7th grade and I had an English teacher, Mr. Wool. And I remember as soon as you'd walk in, you take your seat in front of your, you had your computer in front of you, your desktop, but he would say, for the first 10 minutes, journal. And we'd say, what do we write about? Oh, you do all of that. And he's like, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't matter what you write, just write. And I think the freedom to just write anything, and I want to say this was like, 91. So, I mean, we're looking at, back then, this concept of journaling. And he said, it doesn't matter what you write, just write it down. Right. And I think when I think about the term mindfulness now, it's so mainstream. But there was a time when terms like you said, terms like mindfulness.
What do you think mindfulness means?
Well, I feel like it means to be present and centered.
Okay, that's a great definition. I'll give you the sort of technical. Yeah. Because I think it's thrown around. People don't really know what it means. It means paying attention. But what it really means is simply paying attention on purpose to the present moment. Here's the key: without judgment.
Do tell.
Without judgment, because what you want to do is just be present. So if you're present, and I'm sitting here and I'm like talking to you, and the whole time in the back of my head I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm not saying what I want. I'm terrible. You're not really present. You're in the judgment. So we as humans tend to judge ourselves. Especially adults, but I think children are really struggling these days with a lot. Actually, I don't just think it. There is evidence out there that in fact, it's unprecedented what children are dealing with right now before the pandemic. And there was even an article in the Eagle recently, a great one about the mental health crisis in the Berkshires and 4-month waiting lists for kids to get help. So it's real. But without judgment, just you can't imagine yourself. You're not present if you're judging yourself. It just means showing up, being right here, right now. You and I are right here, right now. And we're not thinking about, is my voice okay? We're just talking. And so the connection is really powerful because we are in a mindful space. And mindfulness happens when you do anything that brings you to that super focus. Writing for me does that. Some people, it's sports. It can be this, just connecting with someone else. So judgment is a big challenge for humans, and imagine just giving yourself space to not judge yourself.
You're absolutely right.
It's really powerful.
Now I got to ask, one of the biggest challenges to mindfulness is what we're surrounded by all the time. Social media, especially. I mean, that is something that did not have a foothold years ago. Now it does. How do you encourage the children who need this, who need the journal, who need to stay mindful? How do you encourage them to unplug from all the other things that seek to distract them?
I'll say this. First, I have to reach the adults who are in touch with the children and let them know that, because I've had people like, why don't you make an app? And this is why I don't want it to be an app. Because handwriting or hand drawing, you can, drawing counts as journaling or both, have health benefits. The main one is when children write with their hand, their brain fires up like an adult.
Okay.
And if they are typing, there's minimal activation in their brain.
Interesting.
So there is literally a health benefit and a brain benefit to handwriting. It doesn't happen when you type. It's certainly, not going to happen staring at social media.
Right.
Social media has its place in the world.
Yeah.
However, there's a lot of it out there, and it doesn't mean just because we have it that we are as humans built to manage it. Yeah. Especially children. They're so impressionable. Their brains are so developing, and the things they see, they get stored.
Yeah.
And the messages, so here's the other thing, you don't know what is going on in a child's brain,
right.
How they're making sense of the pandemic, how they're making sense of something that happens at school. I mean, we all have, maybe we don't all have, but a lot of us have stories of being told something as children by an adult that never leaves, that you can still recall right now. They said something about you're not good at X.
Right.
And you've spent your life thinking you're not good at X, but it's not really true. So things get stored. So this process, just taking time to breathe, having fun moving your body, and then answering some questions and with your hands. Yeah. It just lets you be with yourself. And as you go through that process, and for me, it's decades long, and but there's benefit in the moment. Yeah. From the first day you do it, you learn to be with yourself. You learn to love who's inside of you versus comparing yourself to a lot of stuff that's on. I don't know how real
it's not.
All the things are.
It isn't though.
And
that's the thing that's why this is so important. And I think, as an adult, you have done that work to get to the place now where you're able to filter through all of the things that you've been through, and you understand who you are. Yeah. You understand your place in this world and what you want. And so it's almost like looking back at the little Elizabeth and saying, this is what the little Elizabeth would have benefited from. And it's almost the little Elizabeth gives the gift to others who are just like her.
Yeah, because I did benefit. That's the thing. This 8-year-old me, who was already spent 4 years of her life really being abused in profound ways, which may be another podcast someday. But that little girl was able to find this very simple tool that now has been, it proven to have benefit for all of us. And now it's in this book. And so, yes, I draw that line that, that moment where I picked up this pen magically and wrote something is now here with this book. So I can say, this is what you can do your whole life. These tools you use, they're all the same tools. This is just accessible to children. It's sweet and fun, and but it's for everyone, really. The tools are the same.
Now, I have to ask, did you have a test group that you said, okay, here's a draft, try it out, let me know what you think?
Yeah, I'm going to say shout out to Annabelle and to Gemma, who are two girls that Annabelle, I've known them both for a very long time. Annabelle, I taught probably when she started. I think she's 11 now. Okay. And I think I began teaching her when she was 5. Oh, wow. Yoga. And so I had the two of them. They loved it. I also had 7 years of doing this with my classes of, boys, girls, every, race, socioeconomic place, in schools, in studios, in libraries. I did special camps in Boston for special needs kids. And so I have all of that experience as well. Yeah. And then I have my own experience.
Okay. So all of that filtered in. And
were they specifically for this book, I just had two girls do it.
And did they go through it and then say, okay, here are our thoughts? And
yes. So one, Gemma is 8 and she just loved it. Okay. Annabelle, I think she was 10 when she did it. Okay. And she had lots of great comments. She wanted a space where there could be more drawing. Okay. She had some others, comments. And so I did add in, so you'll see if you go through, there's sometimes lines and then there's sometimes space.
Oh.
So that was a comment she gave me. And she's a really going to do some great things in life.
So you had
very
your
excited to watch
advisory
her.
committee.
Yeah, it would have been nice to be able to reach more people, but just, given the world at the moment and how things had needed to move. I did have adults look at it. I had teachers, a couple of teachers go through it. Actually, 3, I think, teachers. My sister did the stick drawing illustrations, and she is she was a teacher and in early childhood.
Yeah.
And so she also read it, and, I don't know, everyone seems to love it when they see it. Yeah.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
I think something about it just feels very relatable.
Yeah, thank you.
And accessible. All right. So, I think now it's out for everyone when they, it's open to the world.
Yes. It's out. I had a book launch on Sunday at the Center for Peace Through Culture in Housatonic.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really fun. So yes, it literally has launched out into orbit.
Oh boy. How do you feel?
I have to say, I really am a great believer in ritual. I think they exist for a reason. And having that moment to finally say to whoever was there's about 15 of us, the theme was launching dreams. And really this is a dream of mine. And I asked everyone, we went through moving, breathing, journaling, and the journaling was, what is your dream?
Yeah.
And what do you need to make it happen?
Yeah.
And we talked about what we do need. And I believe that the thing we need the most, which is what Pittsfield has given me and what my life has really given me, is there's nothing you can get done without somebody else. There's nothing. If somebody thinks of something, let me know. But even being born into the world, something had to happen so that you're here. So
someone had to get you out.
That's right. So somebody did something.
Yeah.
So and so we we all gathered our energy together. Everyone wrote on a star their dream, and we put it into. We had a big rocket that the executive director made.
Yeah.
And we all slid the dream into the rocket, and then we launched our dreams into the world.
Okay,
metaphorically.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, metaphorically.
I love it. Well, I got to tell you, I'm a big proponent of vision boards.
Oh yeah, those are fun.
And so I think there is something really, really significant about being intentional and saying exactly what you want and putting it out there. I have currently on my wall at home, I have 3 vision boards that one was my original vision board. Ooh. And for whatever reason, I cannot dismantle it because it was the very first one.
Yeah.
But then every, subsequent year, I would make another vision board. So I have 3 that I look at. And I think one of the most fascinating things to look at this vision board is to look at each one and see what dream came true.
Yes,
and see how things have manifested.
Yeah,
and come to be.
I agree. There's stuff out there about the more detailed you are. I mean, think about it. If you go to a restaurant and say, "I'll have dinner," well, you don't know what you're going to get. If you go to the restaurant and say, "Well, I'll have some vegetables,"
right?
That's a little more specific, but you're still not sure. But if you go in and say, "I want," pasta primavera with this, that, this, that, this, that. That's what you're going to get. So the vision board, that's how I think of it. And the more, even like if you want to journal about your dream, be as specific as you can.
Right.
Don't limit yourself.
Right.
And if something strange is there, just write it down. It doesn't matter. It's just something that wants to get out, and just let it out. Don't edit yourself. Don't, Lara Tupper, she's a local author, and she does journaling workshops, and she's a new friend. She's like my new sister. I just love Lara. But, she has sort of guidelines, and, one of them is don't cross out and don't take your pencil or pen off the paper. Because it's not about any perfection. Whatever is there, if you write the wrong word, who cares? You just keep going. Because once you start going back, you're in some judgment. And you aren't just letting the process happen.
You're right. It's that, sometimes we carry those tendencies to have everything just right, even in our journaling habits. And
kids too, they make a mistake often. They would come up and, can I have another one? And I would have to say, this is why. This is what you can practice right now. right? And we'd go through that about, it doesn't matter if it's perfect. It's just about the process. So just go have some fun. Just keep going and notice how you feel, those kinds of things. So
very cathartic. Well, tell me a little bit about what's next for you in terms of, in the portfolio.
Oh boy!
Yeah,
look at you.
Yeah.
My problem is not ideas. It's time and manpower, woman power.
Right. You're like, I'm one woman.
I know. It's like, every day I say to those people, being an entrepreneur is like getting up every morning and jumping off a cliff and getting more and more comfortable with the fact you're not sure where you're going to end up at the end of the day. It's really like that, and you have to enjoy that feeling. So I do, and I'm also a closet perfectionist, so it's a little hard some days, like not getting all the things done, but it's hard to do everything all day, every day. But what I'd like to do, which came out of actually the book launch, there was a woman there, and I would like to translate the book into Spanish.
Okay.
I think there's a real market for that and a need. She was from Mexico and was talking about, she bought a book and wanted to have something like this she could use, send back to this town where there's really just poverty and gangs and just all kinds of challenge. And it just sparked my mind, like, why not? It's more accessible to more kids and more people. And, I also have ideas for not ideas, I actually have drafts of adult journals and, other things like that.
Okay,
and, affirmation card type things that have the same tools in there, but just accessing them differently.
So the portfolio is growing.
Yeah, it's like, there's probably 20 products in my head, but we'll see what happens.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but this is the one I really, this is the first one, and I'm, again, like I said, I'm hoping that so some schools might be able to use it. And I'm finding my way out into the schools a little bit right now in the Berkshires, and hoping to get a little more press as time goes on, and just help people be more aware of it.
Well, I think, Elizabeth, you have already set the stage for all those connections. You have been really intentional about your process, and I have no doubt that those connections are, again, you're not even a year in, and you have made such tremendous inroads. And yes, I do think it speaks to the nature of where we are, but I also think that speaks to your proactive nature, right?
Yeah, thank you.
You know
You're
what
so
I mean?
Sweet.
Because things
you
just don't happen.
No, they don't just happen, and they don't happen alone. Right. So there's things that we have to kind of get over, which is, one is just fear, like fear of either success or failure, some kind of fear of being vulnerable. It is a challenge to be vulnerable. It's a challenge. This is the first time in my life I've said out loud that I was abused as a kid. My friends kind of know. And that makes me vulnerable. It also has garnered all kinds of adults saying to me, oh my gosh, thank you for saying this. Right. Me too. And so there's something powerful about telling your own story and being in your own process. Yeah. But yes, journaling, breathing, moving can help you with those blocks you have. But yes, you have to move, you have to do something. You have to do something, and you need to ask for support.
Asking for help is one of the most strongest things you can ever do.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's something key, though. You have to receive the help when it's given.
That's true. It's so true. I remember when, when my kids were babies, you think that you can do it all alone. And when people say, I'll do it. Oh, it's okay. I got it. And I realized at some point along the way that I did need help, and I had to receive it, like you said, and be okay with that. And sometimes our culture makes us think that there is power in going it alone. There's power in this individual strength. And quite honestly, and that's how we get worn down, depressed, burnt out, and then nobody's there to help because they already left. Because we already told them we didn't need them.
Yeah, it's I think that's a really great point, that we all need each other. And I think at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the few joys, I was looking for joy, was that there was a moment where everyone was really accepting of each other and each other's lives and of how hard everything was. And there was a really beautiful connection, and suddenly we didn't have to be perfect. Our worlds didn't have to, and they never are.
Right.
We just, again, this social media, I think, feeds that too, that there's some perfection out there, and there isn't.
Yeah.
I think that's just a really great point. And I think right now with school starting again, it's also a time we've all gone to school. So I think this time of year, all of us have that back to school feeling, whether you're 100 or 10.
Yeah.
But it's a great time to do something new for yourself. And this is a really powerful, lifelong thing you can do for your kids, for any kids you know, and honestly for yourself. If you want one for yourself, go for it. You don't have to tell anybody. But and so, I need you, people like you, to help me get the word out. I need the people who are listening to take a look and see if the book speaks to them, and go ahead and purchase it and or give it to somebody or tell somebody else about it, because that's how things happen. Yeah. And I used to hate asking for self-promotion is also this thing, but it's not self-promotion. It's, I did this thing and I really know it can help, and I really want people to know about it.
Yeah. And if people, and the thing is that if people are connected to whatever you're sharing, the sell isn't a hard one because the connection is already there. No,
it's not a sell. It's an offering. Yeah. It's like this exists. Here's why. Here's what it is. And I want you to know about it, because I want to help the kids out there. I really
powerful.
I really want to help the kids. And I tell you, I feel like this book doesn't happen without me moving to Pittsfield. It doesn't. It's not where it is. I put it this way: it's not where it is today, and I am not connected the way I am. And I literally feel every day, every person I've met here, and everyone who's offered anything from, big advice to small advice, or support or encouragement. I feel it's like a force that's driving me on, honestly. And you're part of that. I wish you guys could meet Roberta. She's like this light that's like shining all over the room. She's amazing.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You are.
Thank you.
And that's what I mean. That's what I find here. And, I'll just say, one night I was so lucky in E4All, we were doing financials. We had to do spreadsheets. It's not my forte. And I got a one-on-one session during our class time with Dick Kelly from Mountain One Bank. And I'm like, he was like, I think he's the vice president of loans. I'm like, oh my God, this poor man is going to be so bored. But he was so kind and so supportive. And he said couple things he said to me. One of them was, small businesses become big businesses. They're important. And I really feel like Pittsfield believes that. It does. It is true. That is how, and having small businesses makes a community beautiful and interesting. It's, not just we need all the things.
We need all of it.
But we need the small businesses to make it unique. And that was such a beautiful thing he said. And I just feel like that's what's here.
Well, I think I'm going to allow that to be the last word, because Elizabeth, we have like almost 1 minute left.
Can I tell people how to find the book?
I need you to do that right now. That was my next thing.
Yes. So there's a podcast. You can get the podcast anywhere, but it's on the website. So the website's www.kidssuperjournal.com.
All right.
Kidssuperjournal.com.
All right. So everyone, you have heard from Elizabeth Heller. She is the author of Kids Super Journal, which garnered the top prize for E4All. And she has this great resource. So learn more about her, visit her website. So you've been listening to Backstory. Let's hear it on WTBR-FM Pittsfield with Roberta McCulloch-Dews off the mayor's office in the city of Pittsfield. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and have a great day.